77. That's your weather forecast for this hour from the station that leaves no listener behind. NBC News Radio, AM 1050 KCAA.
The Osgood File, sponsored in part by Barbasol, proud to partner with the Movember Foundation to help bring awareness to men's health issues. Learn more about Movember at Barbasol.com. I'm Sam Litzinger, sitting in for Charles Osgood on the CBS Radio Network. It was one of the worst battles of World War II.
This is the best defended island in the world. And this, says Lieutenant General Holland M. Smith, is the toughest fight in the 168-year history of the Marines.
A new documentary introduces us to some veterans on both sides who somehow survived. More after this from Charlie. For those who fought on it, Iwo Jima was truly hell on earth. The island is a volcanic dot in the ocean, but in World War II it was strategically vital, which is why thousands of Americans and Japanese fought to the death to keep it. A new documentary airing on PBS, Iwo Jima From Combat to Comrades, takes a look at some of those on both sides who risk everything for that speck of land. Executive producer Arnold Shapiro says they've held regular reunions on Iwo.
No American walked off that island loving the Japanese, especially after what they went through during the 36 days, at least those who lasted 36 days. To be able to go back and shake hands with their former enemy and have this reunion of honor is really a transformative experience, and you just don't find it happening anywhere else. It's really quite inspiring to see.
In the battle that still rages, a victory in proportion to the cost will be won.
28,000 troops died defending or attacking Iwo Jima. 70 years later, the few veterans still alive want to tell us about war and forgiveness. The Osgood File, Sam Litzinger on the CBS Radio Network.
Brought to you by Covered California. It's more than just healthcare, it's life care. Visit coveredca.com to enroll by December 15th to have coverage by January 1st.
Redlands Blueprint and Commercial Printing Company has been serving the greater Inland Empire for over 60 years. For all of your printing needs, from full-color printing to high-speed copying and everything in between, go to Redlands Blueprint and Commercial Printing Company. Their staff is committed to your total satisfaction. Great service isn't just lip service at Redlands Blueprint and Commercial Printing Company. It's the way they do business year after year. Having trouble finding drafting supplies? Redlands Blueprint and Commercial Printing Company still carries a complete selection. Redlands Blueprint and Commercial Printing Company is rated high in customer satisfaction by Value Star, an independent rating company. For all of your personal or business printing, call Redlands Blueprint and Commercial Printing Company at 909-792-3478. That's 792-3478, or visit them on New York Street in Redlands off the I-10 and the Crosstown Freeway.
Are you looking for the right place to purchase your landscaping items? Well, come see us at Hydroscape. Hydroscape offers a large selection of irrigation products including Irritrol and Toro, such as their efficient precision nozzles. For 40 years, Hydroscape has been family-owned and operated, serving Southern California. With 17 locations, our knowledgeable and experienced staff is equipped to help you with all your irrigation, landscape, and outdoor living projects. Whether you're installing irrigation systems, wanting to maintain a healthy landscape, or simply create a beautiful lit space for outdoor entertaining, Hydroscape is the place to go. Visit our website at hydroscape.com for more information and find helpful articles on our blog, or call our customer service center at 1-800-395-4477.
You're listening to KCAA Loma Linda at 106.5 FM, K293CF Moreno Valley.
Hey! What the? Honey! The water just stopped in here.
They turned it off because you're wasting water.
What? What are you talking about?
You know.
Because you know it's all about that drought, no water. It's all about that drought, no water. It's all about that drought, no water. It's all about that drought, drought. Yeah, it's pretty clear, we're really short on blue. It's time to save it, like we're supposed to do. Some say it's doom, gloom, and and all our grass must go. But together we can make it and enjoy our golden state. It's all about that drought, no water.
Good afternoon and welcome to the Water Zone on KCAA 1050 AM and 106.5 FM. I'm one of your co-hosts, Rob Starr, along with Mr. Mike Barron. And I usually give a great introduction, or at least I think I do for Mike. But today I want to be a little sober because I just so everybody knows, our station here is broadcasting live from San Bernardino. And as I'm sure everybody has probably heard or seen on television for the last 24 hours, the tragic event that happened here yesterday. And it's only a couple blocks away from where we are. And I just want everybody to know that both Mike and I also speak for the Toro Company, our thoughts and prayers are out to all those families who have lost their loved ones and also to the other ones who've got wounded. And it's just a sad thing that happens, and I guess nobody knows how to control it. I do praise the local police department. From what I heard, they were on scene within 4 minutes and did a great job, and with all the extra support from the Sheriff's Department, the FBI, and now the Joint Task Force on Terrorism and so forth. And so again, excuse my non-exuberant intro today, but we do feel saddened by the event that happened. And again, we wish those people our deepest thoughts, and our heart goes out to them.
Yeah, and we want to, of course, express our respect and impressiveness that with which the officers did respond and got on the scene quickly, and of course the cooperation that's been going on. So that being said, we're still in the beginning of the fifth year of the drought, which is unfortunate. Although we did have some snow out there in the Sierras, not part of El Nino, but nevertheless, all snowflakes in our book are equal, so we want more of them.
We'll take what we can get.
Yeah, we'll take what we can get. Absolutely.
We had a couple of guests scheduled for tonight. We had the chief meteorologist from KMIR TV. It's an NBC station out in Palm Springs, and due to the incident that happened yesterday, their news staff is covering that event. They're actually down the street. So I don't think they'll be calling in. And then we had another gentleman, and I don't know how the streets are, at least the way we came it was open, but I heard some other streets were closed. So our other guests may be stuck in that traffic. But we got enough to carry on, and we always are prepared. So let's go into some news and see what we got going for the week in water. So this week, news and water, what's happening, Mike?
Well, one of the things that's happening is that the state of California, through the State Water Resources Control Board, announced yesterday, I should say 2 days ago on December 1st, that the state of California didn't quite reach its objective of reducing water consumption by 25% in the month of October. Now, that was attributed to unusually warm October. But the good news is that enough extra water was saved during the summer months that the state of California still can look to itself as having achieved a 27.1% reduction in residential water use since the tracking began earlier this year. So we've got to remember, even though we hear about the upcoming El Nino downpours, nothing is guaranteed until that water hits the street, so to speak. Yep. And as you pointed out to me, and I was rather surprised at this fact, but something like 90%, or is it 95% of all the water that comes down as rain in Southern California, at least, goes out to the ocean.
90%.
90%. So I know, and we've talked to water agencies, Rob, on this program, that are working on doing more to capture rainwater.
Yeah, Orange County Water District, we had Mr. Patel on, and the things that they're doing looking at collection. Rob Whitaker from Los Angeles Replenishment District and things like that. They're all emergency looking at how can they capture this water and what can they do with it? And that's got to be the future for this place. In fact, you were telling me this morning about an author, a book that you had seen.
Yes.
By Mr. Seth Siegel. And very interesting when I looked up his bio and such. And he wrote a book called Let There Be Water. Maybe you want to share that with what you told me.
Well, you may, since you've had a chance to look him up, you probably know more than I do. But what caught my attention when I first saw his book and a short recap of what the book was about was how in the Middle East, in a country that's fairly dry, Israel, that 100% of their agricultural irrigation is done with recycled water.
Yep.
So all of the wastewater that is processed from the urban communities within Israel makes its way to the farms, and they use no surface water to do their irrigation. So imagine, in California, the California Policy Institute, in a paper in 2014, indicated that of all of the water that runs through the various rivers and streams in the state of California, about 50% of that is not part of our water infrastructure that would allow the state of California to store that water and then use it for urban use or agricultural use. So that leaves another 50% of the water, surface water, that is available and is part of our infrastructure.
And tell them how much they export as well.
Oh, yes.
That's a great fact.
So let me go back then to the book, and that was the fact that they now can supply water to over 12 million people. So half of that population is actually in Israel. So they are now exporters of water. And that's why this book refers to the water miracle in Israel, that because of technology, desalination, because of recycling, because of high-efficiency drip irrigation being used, that they're able to share their water. Maybe that might be the source of future peace.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's an incredible story when you let me know about it, and I know Mike knows this, but our audience doesn't. I did contact his publisher, and he's actually an attorney as well. Smart guy. He went to Cornell University, got his Juris Doctorate degree. Anyway, we're lining him up to be on the show hopefully in the next 2 weeks, so that'll be pretty interesting to hear from him.
Very interesting, because he'll be able to share directly what he has basically discovered. And, the state of California sent several water officials to Australia to learn from Australia how they dealt with a 12-year drought. And they brought back some very good information. One piece of very good information was the fact that you need to measure what the flows are in all of the very key streams and rivers so that you have data to be able to make good decisions. And it seems to me that a trip to Israel, although currently that may not be on the top list of our public officials, they'd rather go to Paris, it seems.
Well, if you fly airlines, you're safe at least getting there and coming back.
Absolutely.
It's just after you get off the plane, you got to
be careful.
You got to worry about.
But yeah, so there's technologies out there, and you've mentioned eNexus, which is kind of a residential mini water treatment plant for your own home that will recycle water, process water to California standards, public agency standards, and use it for either the toilets, or you can use it for irrigation.
Yeah.
So there's a lot going on to try and reduce that water footprint.
Well, I think everybody's seeing a new paradigm shift in, you got to save water. And even after the California is going to have this Godzilla, at least that's what we're told, El Nino, there's still been enough snow in the Sierra already for some ski resorts to open early, as you know, but the impact of our drought is still going to be around for a while in a long term.
Well, speaking of the snowpack, do you know what month of the year is the most critical for measuring the depth of the snowpack?
Don't know.
April. in April is when Governor Brown had that.
That's when he was up there last year. And
where there was no snow on the ground, where usually it's like 5 feet deep. And at that point in time, I said, hey, we have our snowpack is at 5% normal.
Got a great idea. Since we partner with the Wyland Foundation and doing the National Mayor's Challenge for Water Conservation, we ought to go there with the governor, since we have press passes, and bring Wyland up there and do a whole event about what he's going to measure, because I think that'd be interesting for everybody.
And hopefully there'll be a lot of snow, and we can do a little skiing or a little snowboarding. So I'm ready. Let's do it too. Let's do it.
But going back to what you said on the numbers for California, Newport Beach especially is going to have trouble meeting the conservation mandate of 28%. In October, the city used 14.2% less water than in 2013, far below what's needed. And cumulatively, the city has conserved only 20.8%. So they got to help get the numbers up.
But still, you think about it.
That's a lot of water.
I mean, that's a lot of savings to go. And I think, the key thing that the State Water Resources Control Board is looking at is what effort, what programs has that water agency actually expended and invested in to try and reach that water conservation goal. There were 4 agencies that maybe several of our readers read about that were fined $61,000 apiece. Indio, Coachella Valley, Beverly Hills, and believe it or not, the city of Redlands.
Yeah.
And so those were the first 4 water agencies that actually got fined. Now, they could be fined up to $10,000 a day for noncompliance, but
we're in the wrong business.
And I think, we need to get to someone who might be able to tell us when they do collect these funds, where does that money go?
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully it goes back into supporting water conservation initiatives, which probably is what they do.
Hopefully, or the general thing. But anyway, you and I had a chance this morning to catch up with a gentleman that we both know for a long time. His name is Denny Goldstein, and
that's right.
He's a pretty interesting guy, very influential. But let's see if we can play back what we interviewed with him.
Hi, well, we'd like to welcome to the show a gentleman that both Mike and I know for quite many years. This gentleman is pretty influential in the irrigation and green industry. He's also the publisher of Irrigation and Green Industry magazine. And as I said, he's a wealth of information and very much an influencer in our business. And he actually influenced Mike and I in our careers. So we appreciate that. So we'd like to welcome Mr. Denny Goldstein, the publisher of Irrigation and Green Industry magazine. Welcome, Denny.
Thank you. Nice to be here.
We appreciate you coming to join us.
So, I just got to add that I've never known anyone who is more involved in connected, discussing with decision makers that are very significant within the green industry. I mean, whether it's irrigation or power equipment, contractors, distributors. I don't know of anyone who is on a first-name basis with so many individuals that that really are the top of their segments within the industry. So when we're talking to Danny and he's answering questions, it's based on knowledge that really cannot be obtained anywhere else in the country.
Yeah, he opens doors where we can't.
And he's just very knowledgeable about what's going on, and because he gets so much input and discusses with such decision makers that when we're going to ask some questions about the drought, we're going to ask some questions about business. This is going to be pretty significant. So I'm excited about this opportunity to hear directly from an individual who is very well respected within this entire green industry.
Yeah, it's about time. So anyway, Danny, for our listening audience, how, when, and why did you get started in this irrigation and green industry business? What made you do it?
Well, we're going to go back a long time from that.
Okay.
And basically, what happened was in the early 60s, and I just gave away my age, right? But in the early 60s...
You're young, 29.
I got involved in the lawn care business. There was a brand new company starting. It was back east, and they were offering a lawn care service to homeowners. I didn't even own a house at that point, but I spent the entire summer of that year going around and learning about lawn care and people's wants and dislikes about taking care of their lawns. And that really started me in this business. I was doing it as a part-time situation, and my other job got in the way, so to speak. I was promoted to an executive position with the company I was with, and I just put this lawn care stuff on hold for a few years. In 1966, I moved out here to California, Southern California, and I bought a house a year later, and I'm looking at what people call the lawn, and it was all full of weeds. And I started to go to the stores to look around how I'm going to make this a lawn. And all of a sudden it dawned on me that this lawn care company, back 5 years ago, would be a perfect situation for me. So I called the president of the company. It had just become a public company then. And I got a master franchise for the entire state of California. And I opened up shop in the San Fernando Valley, and I was known as Lawn-O-Mat of San Fernando Valley. I sold about 3, maybe 5 franchises to other parts of Southern California, and we were in the lawn care business. So I've been involved in turf since really 1966. It was really very interesting back then. I got a landscape contractor's license because if you do any job over $200, you must be licensed by the state of California. Also, in those years, I got my pest control advisor's license, because if I was going to train franchisees under my wing to use certain chemicals, they had just passed a law that if you're going to advise them, you needed an advisor's license. So I got that license, and I'm raring to go. We did that until 1977, and being a landscape contractor is a very, very tough job. It's hard work, and I don't even think that landscape contractors themselves appreciate the knowledge that they need to have and do have, and the disciplines that they cross.
Danny, I've got to just ask you a quick question, because you talked about lawn care there in when you moved to California. So did you ever hear of a turf removal program back in those days?
No. No such animal. What everybody wanted to do is they wanted to take this semi-arid climate that we lived in and make it green so they could have a place where their kids can play that would help cool down the surroundings of their home, that help generate oxygen to cleanse the atmosphere. It was just the opposite of turf removal. It was adding turf, and they were adding turf at a very rapid rate. In fact, back then, and I'm not so sure today, turf is the largest cash crop in the United States.
Wow.
Maybe with the exception of corn, which they're now using for ethanol. But in those days, turf was the largest cash crop in the United States. Now, it's around everybody's home, so it's in small pieces. But if you put all that acreage together, it's a very substantial number. And so, here I am going into the landscape business, if you will, and I got an appreciation of that landscape contractor because, as I was saying before, if you were a plumber, you learn how to put pipe together, and you do that day in and day out. If you're a roofer, you learn the different types of roofs to put on, and that's fine. If you're an electrician, you learn how to pull wire and hook it up to a 110 or 220 line. The landscape contractor crosses so many disciplines. He has to have a knowledge of grading. He has to have a knowledge of draining. He has to have a knowledge of plant material, southern exposure, northern exposure, what's susceptible to various insects and diseases, and how to treat them. He has to have a knowledge of the trees, southern exposure, northern exposure, which will do well, and again, how to treat diseases and pest problems. He's got to have a knowledge of turf. He's got to have a knowledge of hardscapes, because that's coming in very strong these days. He should have a knowledge of softscapes. He has to have a knowledge of lighting, so he learns a little bit about electrical. He has to have a knowledge of the irrigation system, how to put it in, how to install it. And so, and he's got to know about evapotranspiration rates now because of the different state regulations. So he's got to be able to do math, right, to schedule. So he underestimates himself, and
it's more than knowing how to use a shovel.
Oh, it's so much more, But it's all of these different disciplines and different trades that he crosses that he needs to know about, So that's a very important factor.
Well, we're going to take a little break here, and then we'll back and continue. Our other guest has just shown up in the station, and so we're going to kind of mix things up a little bit, and we'll be back in a minute on KCAA 1050 AM, 106.5 FM, and enjoy your evening, and we'll be right back.
Are you looking for the right place to purchase your landscaping items? Well, come see us at Hydroscape. Hydroscape offers a large selection of irrigation products including Irritrol and Toro, such as their efficient precision nozzles. For 40 years, Hydroscape has been family-owned and operated, serving Southern California. With 17 locations, our knowledgeable and experienced staff is equipped to help you with all your irrigation, landscape, and outdoor living projects. Whether you're installing irrigation systems, wanting to maintain a healthy landscape, or simply create a beautiful lit space for outdoor entertaining, Hydroscape is the place to go. Visit our website at hydroscape.com for more information and find helpful articles on our blog, or call our customer service center at 1-800-395-4477.
Hey man, what are you doing?
I'm watering my lawn.
Don't you know you can't water your lawn in the middle of the afternoon? Uh-oh, you're in big trouble. Here comes the water police.
Well, what do I do now?
Tune into the Water Zone show on KCAA Radio Thursday nights at 6 p.m. They'll help you out. Hi, welcome back to the Water Zone with Mike and Rob, and on KCAA 1050 AM, and hope everybody's settling back and being more calm, at least the people around our studio and in the city here in San Bernardino. We have another guest who got stuck in traffic because of all the activities that are happening around here, but we're very honored that he came in. It's a gentleman, he's a little publisher. He publishes just a couple magazines called Builder Developer, Green Home Builder, American Infrastructure, 50 Plus Builder, residential contractor, the ABC Green Home, and then he also does email stuff called the Builder Bites and A1 Weekly Biz. So this guy's really, really busy, and we're welcoming to the show Mr. Nick Slevin, the publisher of those magazines. Welcome, Nick.
Welcome, gentlemen. Thank you very much for inviting me along this evening. Again, apologies for my tardiness.
No problem.
That's okay. And we understand you flew in especially from Ireland. I know you were over there for Thanksgiving, and you just came back the other day, and we appreciate you coming on the show. Can you give us a little history? I've known you for years, and I know the history of how you started, but, I don't have the little fiddles and the music to go on the story of how a little guy from Ireland came over here with basically nothing and built an empire. But give us a little history on your 25th anniversary of Builder Developer Magazine and what it does, and we'll get into some more things with that.
I'm not sure she actually qualifies as an empire quite, but sounds nice. But you can
pay us later.
Very nice. I came from Dublin in the mid-'80s, in actually about 1986. Like a lot of my countrymen, looking to find some better and more meaningful employment. I was in the publishing business in Ireland. I moved to California, and I was fortunate to get work in construction for a short period, and I got back into publishing. And after a few years, including a stint, incidentally, working for our other guest this evening, Denny Goldstein, who was one of my last bosses before I started my own business, I started Builder and Developer in 1990 to serve the Southern California home building market. And it proved to be a good idea, as it happens.
You've probably seen some ups and downs in terms of the customers out there, but it's been it really, until maybe just recently, but the big financial crisis probably was the biggest dip that I can remember anyway. But yet here you are, 2015. So congratulations. You've obviously developed some great relationships and provide a very valuable service to customers.
You, as like Denny, Denny's the go-to guy who knows everybody in the irrigation industry. You're the go-to guy on the other side, publisher who knows everybody in the building industry, and that's incredible. But you have to have seen all this new paradigm shifts over from 7-8 years ago to what it is today, and why builders now are offering all these kind of different things of how to save money on your homes after you buy them, and the management of the homes, and you've interviewed God knows how many major builders and small builders all over the country. Are they now on board? Do they think this is a selling point to be more energy wise, to be more water wise? Is that things that are now boosting their sales to people and helping people buy whether it's their first home or their last home? Or
I think home builders, frankly, are lucky. They feel very lucky. Those I know well enough to admit to me privately, they consider themselves, as do I, fortunate to be in business anymore. We all took a very severe shellacking over the last decade, and it's 7, 8, 9, 10, miserable years, and certainly for the home building business was sort of in the epicenter of the fallout. And a lot of consolidation, a lot of magazine companies serving the home building industry, a lot of other businesses, a lot of contractors. We saw 2 million in the country unemployed through construction, and there are still, a solid 850,000 of those jobs never came back. And it's not the building industry it was, although it's very resilient. The need for housing is acute here in California. There's a large pent-up demand in consequence of the slowdown we all experienced. Homes have changed and evolved. A home built today is remarkably dissimilar to a home built in 2005. It's far more efficient for lots of different reasons. It sips water. It sips energy. Most of this has to do with the code changes that California builders have to contend with. And the code changes tend to be created here by the evil scientists that the builders
of California.
California
first.
California first. And then they end up migrating east. And so what happens here, in 2015 ends up eventually, being experienced in Florida in 2018 or thereabouts, and that's the sort of way it works, slow wave across the country.
From an economic perspective, do the builders ever kind of sit back and estimate what the new codes, how they impact the cost of a home for a first-time buyer, for example? Is that very significant relative to, because of the pent-up demand, prices, might be bid up? Is that even a relevant factor, the code the costs that are imposed by the new codes?
I think builders collectively think that anything to do with that changes or challenges the modus operandi or the business model is probably considered in a negative light. But I think that they understand the need to embrace the codes and the changes in the codes that we experience. And so everybody's got quality on their mind. Houses are much tighter than they used to be. Builders have to provide a warranty. They realize this, and so they're very anxious to build a very tight, well-built, extraordinarily well-built in most cases, a unit. Compare a modern house to anything built in the last in the 80s or 90s, and there's a definite evolution. You can experience it right away, not just the format in terms of the architecture, but definitely the way the house lives. Now we are concerned with things like indoor air quality, and media and programmability and all sorts of other fun things that no one ever considered until quite recently. A lot of homes you can operate with your smartphone. I mean, just imagine thinking about that when you were growing up, using your telephone to turn on your air conditioning or program your washer and dryer or turn on your sprinklers for that matter.
I was the first automatic sprinkler. My mom would send me out on the lawn, set a little timer, and then tell me when the little sand filled up, and then go out and move it to the other side.
It's interesting. The science of home building has definitely evolved, and I never really thought about it as a science until quite recently, when we got involved in our own developments to showcase technology in the homes that we build. I sort of had to start wearing the home builder hat a little bit and realize just what was available. And frankly, what's available is everything. And it's all available right now. And, all the building materials suppliers have got on board sustainability and energy efficiency. They were very quick to, in point of fact. What's missing a little bit is the culture. The home builder culture is a fairly slow to maneuver beast. And I think some builders are more quick to adopt and adapt to the trends in buyers' interest and requirements.
Do you think the problem with joining that very quickly is that it increases their expenditures to buy the components to do that?
They seem to think that's the issue, but really it's not so much the additional cost. I don't think, because when we demonstrate our own affordable, buildable, certified, which is the ABC Green Home brand we build, intentionally this is designed to point to the fact that you can in fact build an $85 a square foot beautiful 2,500 square foot multi-generational home that has all the bells and whistles. The financial platform is very straightforward. It's really about the methodologies. I think, frankly, a lot of it is an excuse. People are afraid to change. The houses we build and the houses that more eco-friendly home builders are constructing currently, as I mentioned, they sip energy. And a lot of the reasons for that is because the methodologies have changed. For example, we use 2x6 studs on a 24 inches on center, as opposed to the traditional framing layout of 2x4 studs, 16 inches on center. When you do something as simple as this, you create a much bigger stud bay, which allows you to put a more insulation in the wall space. More insulation means you don't use as much energy, not as much heat or cold passes through the wall space. As a result, you don't need as much air conditioning or as much heat, and as a consequence of that, you have a lesser bill. So if you can build your house, and also use 30% less lumber in your construction, so that's in a savings, fairly significant savings to the builder and, of course, to the buyer. But
and don't they use those SIP panels, the insulated panels?
Some do. Some builders do. There's all sorts of wonderful materials. We tried to demonstrate with our ABC Green Home brand that all the parts you can buy from any lumbers and any builder's supply yard, any journeyman home builder or any father and son building team could construct one of the units that we build on any lot in the land and achieve the same zero net energy results we do.
I know you mentioned, the ABC Home, and I know our listeners probably aren't familiar with that and what you're doing with that and what you have done. If you can kind of give our audience a little bit of information on that.
Yeah, Rob, so I publish a magazine called Green Home Builder, which has just turned 10 this year, and we're very flattered. In fact, it was one of the only magazines we published that grew its circulation and distribution during the downturn, which points to the keen interest that people have in the industry in this particular theme. And one of my big laments was that all the projects that we were asked to consider or invited to consider to showcase within the magazine were invariably these big McMansions with a few solar panels on the roof. And it just struck me that that's not really what home building, green home building or sustainable home building should really be about. So where were the more traditional communities that anybody could purchase and any home buyer could seek to buy and move into with their family? And I was having this conversation at the back end of a Super Bowl game in about 2011 with a friend of mine from the Edison Company, a guy called John Morton, and he laughed and he said, "Why don't you imagine a house and have one of your architect friends design it, and then render your clients materials into it and do a sort of a what-if house?" And I thought, gosh, that's a really pretty good idea. So I went back to my office and I told my colleagues, and they rolled their eyebrows, and I said, "Oh, here we go. Another big project." But it took off pretty easily, and the manufacturers who advertised in our publications were keen to get behind it. And a very good architect by the name of Manny Gonzalez from the KTGY Group agreed to design a house, and more for whimsy purposes than anything else, and to demonstrate that any home could really be ZNE or zero net energy and very sustainable. I invited Manny to design a house that looked more like a Pasadena craftsman cottage than a big McMansion. And so we decided to call it the Affordable Buildable Certified Green Home. And we were planning on having it theoretically certified by the 6 big traditional agencies that rate homes independently, including LEED, which most people are probably familiar with, from the United States Green Build Council, that being the high bar in the industry. And so off we set, and the designs came back, and the products went in, and we started to design the house and tell stories about it, and the phone rang, and it was my friend from Edison. And he said, "Look, I didn't share this with you, but the boys and girls here at the Edison Company really like what you're doing, and we're looking for a demonstration home project. Would you mind awfully if we built your home?" Well, I was pretty...
Bring it on.
Wait. I'm going to have to think about that one.
Well, it seems a little bit counterintuitive. Why would a big utility get behind a solar-powered zero-net energy house? Well, the answer is fairly straightforward. Edison is more interested in training us, those of us that use electricity, which is everybody, to sip what they provide us with versus gulping it. And so a project like this one provides them with a classroom. And so they agreed to build a house per our specs. And the ABC Green Home opened at the Great Park in Irvine in October of 2012. And it was a huge success right out of the box. And we were amazed and very flattered and delighted. And over 32,000 people toured the house in 12 months. It was on display. It was open to the public. We had 100,000 people visit the site online, take the virtual tour of the house. And I think the manufacturers were quite pleased. They went on to win a few prizes, including the Gold Nugget Award for Green Home Design Excellence and so on.
Can consumers still visit that home online?
It's being deconstructed because the Great Park needed the site back to put a fire station in there. But what's happened is the house is morphing into what we call ABC Green Home 1A and 1B. Our builder partner on the next projects is Habitat for Humanity. And Habitat found a very nice site in Santa Ana, and we are moving forward to build 2 new units.
I just got to say, I grew up in Santa Ana, went to Santa Ana High School in the whole 9 yards. So do you know what streets it's on by chance?
I don't off the top of my head.
It's
on the side of a gas station. So we're building 2 units, 2 very green units on the side of a recycled gas station. And the site, I should have the address off the top of my head, and I don't. I apologize.
No, that's all right.
I was still driving.
How could you
up
know
the freeway.
that I grew up in Santa Ana?
I'm still my mind is still on the 215. But we're breaking ground on this project in the next 2 weeks, and we're deconstructing the original house in the Great Park, and we're recycling most of it into these 2 units. And when they're finished, Habitat's making them available to U.S. veteran families, as they're rather unique and special family homes. And we're very pleased by this.
I understand you have a good irrigation partner.
Well, we do, of course. I'm very pleased to report that Toro Irrigation, of course, manufacturers of very, very fine products, have agreed to be the landscape partner on the project. And they brought their landscape lighting compadres from Unique LED along to light up the project at nighttime. So we're very pleased and delighted by this, and that means we'll have programmable clocks and microburst heads, and of course drip irrigation, and all the things you need to really sip the water necessary to irrigate the projects, and that's been a really fabulous move.
Do you find about all these net zero homes and the water saving homes that, or at least I see a lot of affordable housing companies are now starting to do that, because again, it's going to affordable low income housing, and the people who live there obviously don't have big bucks to pay. So are they? I see a lot of them moving towards that, so they can help the tenants or the people who live in those homes maintain it at a very low cost. That seems to be, at least to me, I see that as a bigger trend in that.
It's an advantage, definitely. These houses are set up in such a way that the home buyer doesn't really have to think about too much of anything. The home buying experience hasn't really changed much. What's happened is that the homes are healthier, and they're better built, and they do everything in a much more organized and efficient way than they used to, including things like irrigation and toilet flushing and showers and everything. We use way better componentry, and we use a lot less of everything, from gas to electricity to water. And of course the bills go down as a result of that, and that's always useful. But a new home, I have a little bit of a fact sheet. I was on the phone this morning with Mike Balsamo, who's my boss on the Building Industry Association of Orange County Board of Directors, as the executive director, and he was chatting, and we were talking about some of the Building Industry Association of Southern California's drought messages. And I wasn't aware, but a new home today uses 29,000 fewer gallons of water annually than home built just 10 years ago in 2005, and 46,000 fewer gallons than a home built in the 1980s. And that's pretty comprehensive when you add it up.
Mm-hmm. Especially with the way the cost of water has increased over that same period.
It's true, but there are other things like dishwashers that hold the last rinse cycle and reuse it in the next wash cycle. That's pretty intelligent. And of course the state has required high efficiency toilets, faucets, shower heads, and of course even things like sprinklers, and now we have restrictions on how much green we can actually have in our yards. And I know where I live in Orange County, we're only allowed to water 1 day a week now. We're so all patiently waiting for El Nino to show up.
Keep the landscape at least alive with a little bit of water.
It'll be hanging on in there.
Well, I know myself being on the board of the Building Industry Association, you and I worked a lot of things together with that.
Right.
But I've noticed a lot of cities, when they go to do the hookups for the builders, to do the water hookups, there could go anywhere from little to $15,000 or more to hook up. And I was surprised. I was working with a water agency called Apple Valley Ranchos Water Agency. They only charge $75 to put the meter in. That's incredible. Yet where I live in Orange County, just kind of not close to you, but in the general vicinity, it's like $15,000 to do a hookup for water.
It is, and you touch on something that's kind of an important thing. house price affordability has become, for a brief moment there, a couple of years ago, there was still house price affordability. And largely because the cities had given a moratorium on impact fees to the home building community. And now we're back to seeing almost $100,000 per house, which has been leveraged by the cities and essentially taxing the as yet to be designated home buyer, which of course has to be passed on. But that's for everything from high schools and roads and everything else, trash and all the other things, fire stations, and it's needed infrastructure. We understand, but it's a moving target in terms of the number, and some cities are very generously helping themselves to big impact fees, and some are less so. Places like Anaheim are a bit more reasonable, and so you see more development there. And so, coastal Orange County holds most of the jobs. Inland Empire has been challenged, and unfortunately the cities in the Inland Empire seem to be very quick to tack on fees, which discourages development.
Well, years ago, just before the dip in the economy, Riverside County was the 5th largest growing county in the United States. Unbelievable.
Wow.
And now, it's trying to come back and get better from what it was. But that's a scary thought. I see, when the housing market and the economy hit, a lot of people lost their homes, as we all know,
right?
And the mortgage meltdown and everything else. And multifamily properties started growing immensely. When you looked at the balance, it was what 3 or 4 to 1 from single-family homes to at the peak. I think we were looking at almost 2 million home starts a year for single-family homes, and it was a couple 100,000 for multifamily stuff. And in the 50-plus homes, and I worked with you, 12 years ago.
Right.
we were talking, and I know you did a study on the top 10 reasons or top 10 things that 50-plus people want to see, and one is obviously safety in this, but they also wanted low maintenance costs.
Right.
And same thing with which goes to lower use water irrigation and lighting and all that stuff. So, but that thing has stuck on. I mean, that's sort of the new paradigm now. That's what everybody wants. They don't want to spend a fortune unless you're living in Beverly Hills and the guy has 8 or 9 swimming pools. Have they found him yet?
Bel Air.
Have they found him yet?
Well, is this the mystery homeowner?
What you have to do is you got to give the guy credit. He's helping to finance a lot of.
Well, I was going to say he pays the bill, so they shouldn't complain. I mean,
you have to wonder if the bill is being paid. What's the issue?
Well, it's what they call water justice.
Well, now we're knocking on each other because somebody was washing their car and somebody was seen and hosing down their sidewalk. And the fact is, though, it's worth reporting that Southern California in particular has done a pretty good job of husbanding and planning. There is water. We do have storage. We do have water acreage, not in abundance, but we do have. And we have been planning, probably a little better than our cousins to the north. Where they get more precipitation and they've been less inclined to plan. And I think we've done a better job of that. Some would argue that, wearing my infrastructure hat a little bit here, that there's more than enough water to go around if we didn't feel the need to grow 500 a gallon heads of lettuce and other things.
Oh, yes.
Well, Denny earlier, or we didn't finish the interview with Denny, which we'll continue in the next show, but he was telling us the largest crop in America is turf.
Yeah.
Grass.
Yeah.
More than corn.
Yeah, that's interesting. He would know that, being the landscape guy that he is.
And of course, it's divided into a lot of little squares and rectangles.
Sure. Right.
But when you add it all up, it is big. But from the builder's perspective, you got to give them credit because regulations change on an ongoing basis. They have to stay up with those regulations. They sometimes don't find out about something until they go to get their plans approved, or maybe to get occupancy certificates, or whatever it is that allows them to sell their homes, and they're not in compliance, and all of a sudden they've got some additional costs. Does that happen very often, or do they stay really on top of that? Do they have people in their offices that just do nothing but?
Everybody knows when the codes are coming, and the codes do a good job of telling us, and we're always reminded. There are plenty of symposiums and trainings arranged and coordinated industry-wide. Every builder, certainly all the big builders, and the majority of small builders, nobody gets caught out by this. when you're permitting, everybody's working 2 years up the road, 3 years up the road. Everybody's thinking ahead. I mean, real estate, you tend to sort of work backwards from when you buy your land to when you plan to, maybe 10 years or even 15 or more years. You sit on land and it goes into your back pocket until you're ready to build on it. But so there's lots of planning. These houses don't just arrive by accident. They arrive through significant amount of headwinds being figured out and lots of meetings and lots of strategy and lots of consultants being well paid for helping us out.
And that's after the meetings with the planning commissions, right?
Right. Well, if you can get a project through Coastal Commission anymore, then you're obviously very well appointed.
What do builders think? I mean, I always heard about this. I mean, I do know about it, but this issue of the kangaroo rat. You can't build product homes if they find one piece of what's the right word here I'm looking for, if they incidents of a kangaroo rat being on the property, and that can stop a whole industry. And
there's always a kangaroo rat because when I was getting started back in the
do you give a rat about the rat?
Well, the builders have to give a rat about the kangaroo rat, but it was a gnat catcher. Do you remember the gnat catcher debacle? I mean, we have gnat catcher that's missing one eyebrow, or it's got an extra freckle, or it's got something. It's got a slightly spotted, bandied left leg, or whatever. And because of this, it has to be immediately placed on the endangered species list into perpetuity. And so anybody who would ever consider building on anything that ever looked like it might potentially defrock a gnat catcher was immediately shunned and kicked to the curb. And it was replaced by the three-toed waffle. And
then of course the Delta smelt is the big one that reduced the amount of water that was being pumped down to Southern California from Northern California through the
As a fisherman,
Delta.
though, I do agree with the fish side of it. I think that there might be something there on the fishing side.
I think there's always, there's a movie called The Ender's Game. Have you heard of that movie? So, in there, one of the main characters that says, in order to defeat your enemy, you have to know your enemy. And the more you know your enemy, you get to love your enemy. And by the time you love your enemy, you don't want to defeat him anymore. So I hear there's always two sides to every story.
It's a pretty good logic. We might attempt some of that in the Middle East.
Yeah, so it doesn't work all universally. So, but we'll try water out there. But from our perspective, water to the irrigation industry is very, very important. It's our future. It's our lifeblood. And for several years, we've been on the side of being part of the solution, supporting trade associations that promote improving irrigation efficiency, and training contractors, training distributors to pursue that. I assume that in the building industry, the suppliers in that industry also do similar kinds of training and promotion to advance the cause of efficient resource utilization.
It's interesting. We have another client, Owens Corning, who are a huge, massive conglomerate, and they came on board at ABC Green Homes as the installation partner after many consultations with their building science group, which was a big group of people, and their full-time job is to apply science to coming up with more efficient materials and products. And they're not alone in this. Most manufacturers are taking a very, very scientific approach to how they go about, blending materials and building safe, making safe and user-friendly, efficient and long-lasting and rugged components. And not all this stuff is made in China. A lot of increasingly stuff is coming home, I'm pleased to say.
Yeah,
we're seeing stuff manufactured more in the United States than we have for a long time.
So we appreciate you coming here tonight. And how can people get a hold of you if they want to?
The abcgreenhome.com self-plug here. We just rolled out an upgraded HTML5 based website tonight, in fact. abcgreenhome.com. And Peninsula Publishing is the name of my business. Peninsula Publishing, we're based in Newport Beach, and I can be reached there. penpubbing.com.
So any builders listening to our program? This is a place to advertise.
Yeah, well, it's a tremendous. It's great. We cover the entire United States, so we've got builders in every state, and it's turned out to be a cool 250,000 subscribers, which is
Wow.
fantastic, and I'm very proud of that.
Yep. Well,
Excellent.
We've known each other for a long time, and I really sincerely appreciate you hassling that freeway to get here.
Yeah, it's fabulous. It's great. It's a great opportunity. I love what you guys are doing. It's a great show, and I'm very pleased to see you winning prizes now too, no less. It's just congratulations for this.
Thank you. That we'll formally announce that in 2.5 weeks when we get. That's okay. When we get the award, and we're very proud of that. So I don't know how much time we got. It was a nice mix between Denny and you, and we'll continue.
With Denny, the godfather of the
irrigation industry.
Publishing industry.
So thanks everybody for listening. We do appreciate it. And you know what, Mike? We need to make this a 2-hour show.
Hey,
we'll have to talk to our sponsor.
But the key thing is, let's continue to be efficient with our water use. Be
smart. Be water smart.
Be water smart.
Here.
Visit us at torowatersmart.com if you want additional information.
Have a nice week, everybody. We'll see you next week. Thanks.
This is 1050 AM KCAA Loma Linda and KCAA FM Yucaipa 106.5 FM.
Call the dogs and put out the fire. This is Baxter Black with a little peek at the Carhartt Cowboy. What makes America the most productive, generous country on